So let's talk about Collateral. Not because it's some giant action movie, but because Tom Cruise might have played one of the coldest villains ever put on screen. When people think of Tom Cruise, they usually think of the good guy, the action hero, the guy sprinting through every movie. But in Collateral, he barely ever has to raise his voice, and somehow, that's even more terrifying. His character, Vincent, is a hitman. Simple enough. But what makes him different is he doesn't act like a movie hitman. He doesn't scream, doesn't get angry, doesn't act like, he's trying to prove to you how dangerous he is. He's calm, almost polite, like killing people is just another day job. That's what makes him creepy, is he doesn't enjoy violence, he just doesn't care about it. The movie starts with Max, a taxi driver who's been living the same day for years. He talks about his dreams, he wants to start a limousine company, he has plans, but he never takes the first step, because it's more comfortable staying where he is instead of risking failure. And then Vincent gets into his cab, and in one night, Max is forced to confront everything he's been avoiding. That's really what Collateral is about. Vincent isn't just a villain, he's the thing that forces Max to wake up. Throughout the movie, Vincent keeps throwing out these little philosophies. He talks about how no one really notices anyone, how the world keeps moving no matter who dies, how people waste their lives waiting for the right time. The scary part? Some of what he says actually makes sense. That's what makes him such a good villain. He's just taken those ideas to a place where human life means absolutely nothing. There's another scene that doesn't get talked about enough, the coyote scene. After everything that's happened, Vincent and Max are just driving through downtown Los Angeles at night. No gunshots, no arguing, just the city at night. Then out of nowhere, a coyote slowly walks across an empty street. For a few seconds, Vincent and Max just watch him. Nobody's saying anything. And honestly, it's one of the most beautiful scenes in the movie. At first it just feels random, but the more you think about it, the more it says about both characters. Coyotes are survivors. They've adapted to live almost anywhere, even in one of the biggest cities in America. They didn't belong there, but somehow they figured out how to exist. In a weird way, Vincent is the same way. He moves through Los Angeles like a predator. Always alert, always watching, never emotionally attached to anyone or anything. He slips in, does his job, and disappears. Just like a coyote moving through the night. But I think the scene also shows something else. For a brief moment, Vincent stops. He's not thinking about his next target. He's simply watching. It's one of the only moments in the movie where he seems almost human. It makes you wonder if there was ever a different version of Vincent. Someone who wasn't consumed by the life he chose. The movie never answers that question, and I think that's exactly why the scene works. At the same time, Max is looking at the coyotes too, but for him, they mean something different. He spent years trapped in the exact same routine, talking about changing his life. Always waiting for tomorrow. The coyotes don't wait. They adapt, they survive, they keep moving. And that's exactly what Max is learning to do. It's almost like the movie pauses for 30 seconds to show two different people looking at exactly the same thing and having two different meanings. That's something Collateral does better than most, thrillers. It's not just looking for action. It's interested in who these people are when nobody's talking. Sometimes the quietest scene tells you the most. One of my favorite scenes is when Max and Vincent stop at the jazz club. You think it's just another stop, but then Vincent starts talking to the trumpet player. He's friendly, interested, almost respectful. For a minute you forget who he is. And then he kills him. No dramatic speech, no hesitation, just business. That scene tells you everything about Vincent. People aren't people to him. They're objectives. Even his relationship with Max is strange. He insults him, pushes him, makes fun of his excuses, but in a weird way, he's trying to force Max to stop wasting his life. It's almost like Vincent sees someone that still has a chance to become something, and part of him can't stand watching that chance go to waste. Maybe it's because Vincent knows there's no way of going back for himself. The movie never tells us, and that's what makes their conversations so interesting. Neither one of them completely changes, but they both leave the cab that night different people. And then we get to the subway ending, and I think it's one of the smartest endings in a crime movie. By this point, Vincent has spent the whole night acting like he's one step ahead. He's calm, calculated, and has an answer for everything. Even when things are starting to fall apart, he believes that his experience is enough to get him through. But the final confrontation changes that. Max isn't the same guy that Vincent got in the cab with at the beginning of the movie. Earlier that night, Max froze under pressure. He avoided conflict. He let life happen to him. Now he's finally making decisions instead of excuses. That's the biggest change in the entire movie. The movie isn't about Max becoming tougher than Vincent. It's about Max finally choosing to act. During the shootout on the train, Vincent does what he always does. He relies on precision. Fast, accurate, controlled. But Max doesn't fight like a professional. He fires wildly at the train doors without overthinking it. And that's what catches Vincent off guard. Sometimes experience can become routine. Vincent has done the same job for so long that he believes the same methods will always work. Max has no routine. And for the first time, all night, that's enough. Then comes the moment that always sticks with me. Vincent sits down in the train car. No dramatic speech, no begging, no revenge. He quietly realizes what happened. Earlier in the movie, Vincent tells Max about a man who died on the subway train, and the body rode around for hours before anyone noticed. To Vincent, it proved that nobody cares. People are too distracted to notice each other. At the time, it just sounded like another cynical story. But by the end, the story becomes Vincent's own ending. He's the one sitting alone on the train, dying quietly as the city keeps moving around him. It's almost poetic. The philosophy that he used to justify his life is exactly what swallows him in the end. For someone who believed nothing mattered, his own death barely leaves a ripple. And that's why I think the ending is so powerful. Vincent wasn't defeated because someone was stronger. He was defeated because his worldview had a flaw. He believed everyone was disconnected, and emotions made people weak, and life was random. Max proves the opposite. He survives because he starts caring. In the end, Collateral isn't just about a hitman and a taxi driver. It's about two completely different ways of looking at life. One believes nothing matters, the other finally realizes that every decision does. And only one walks off the train. And that's why I think Vincent is one of Tom Cruise's best performances. He doesn't rely on yelling, he doesn't rely on huge action scenes. He creates tension just by walking into the room. Every conversation feels dangerous because you never know if it's going to end with somebody laughing or somebody dying. Even after all these years, Collateral still holds up. Not because the shootouts, not because the car chases, but because Vincent is one of those villains that you just can't stop thinking about. He's calm, he's intelligent, he's believable, and somehow that makes him far scarier than the villains that scream the loudest. If you haven't watched Collateral in a while, I honestly recommend you giving it another look. You might go in expecting a thriller, but you'll probably come out thinking about Vincent long after the credits roll.